Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Brain Set Free podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters. So glad that you are here joining me. Got some good stuff to talk about that hopefully is going to bless you and help you in your mental health. Again, the mission of Brain Set Free is to help you unlock greater mental well being by bridging the gap between neuroscience and faith. So we've got lots of resources and techniques, things that we can show you that I hope we're going to help you and really get you to be able to move forward to a healthier place, a more whole place, and become the person that you really want to become. As I've said before, I've been through it. I get it. I understand where you're at if you're struggling. So I'm going to just continue to offer things to you that have been helpful for me in my journey and recovery and healing. So these things have been applied and practiced. So today I want to talk about, last episode I talked about anxiety and kind of what anxiety is, just some basics about anxiety. I talked a little bit about some techniques and things that can be done to help with anxiety and when you're stuck in this stress response. One of the things I mentioned was mindfulness. Okay. So the title, I'll just call this episode Learning to Stay in the Present Moment. Okay. Normalizing mindfulness. When I say mindfulness, I know that can be a little bit of a trigger word for some people. Probably was for me at certain points in my life, or would have been. Sounds a little bit maybe new agey or out there, or like often some religious stuff that I don't really know or get. That's very different. And I get that. For some people, maybe it's not. It's maybe totally fine. And mindfulness is just a normal kind of term. But I feel like there's a lot of baggage around it. There doesn't really need to be. So simply just briefly go over kind of what mindfulness is. So if you were to define mindfulness, you might hear different things, but really simply put, it is being present and aware in the moment. That's really it. Focus on what is immediately present, what's happening around you in the moment, engaging your senses specifically in that. Another big part of it, though, is doing so non-judgmentally. So often, if you just sort of take inventory, you'll notice that we will analyze our thoughts or feelings or what's going on around us with often a judgmental sort of attitude, even towards ourselves. So it's this being present in the moment, just to experience and be present with what you're going through. So some people, you might have heard things that mindfulness and is about like emptying your mind and just trying to get rid of everything. And that's not what we're talking about here. So the mindfulness we're talking about isn't about emptying the mind, but it is about redirecting your focus and your attention to the present moment. So you're not emptying your mind, you're filling your mind, but with things that are happening right now, the here and now, not in the past, not in the future, but right here. How does mindfulness help with anxiety, even, depression, attention, low self-esteem, just a lot of different mental health struggles? Mindfulness can be really helpful. So if you are someone that deals with something like anxiety or likely depression and feeling like you're stuck in that stress response where your brain is sort of overactivated and you're in this fight or flight state, it feels like all the time or very often, or in situations where you know you don't need to be, but it happens anyway. So your body, your brain kind of gets stuck here. Well, what really happens is your mind is fixated on, stuck in rumination about future things to come that might happen, might not happen, what you're worried about, things that scare you. or past events, maybe that have caused trauma and pain and that you just dwell on. Okay, so we kind of get stuck in this place, and our ability to be present is really, really hindered. So if you deal with chronic stress and anxiety, you might notice that it can be really hard to concentrate and focus. I deal with that. I dealt with that when I was at the worst of my mental health issues. I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't sit and read anything. I couldn't remember anything. Today, it's much better, but I still have to work on it. My tendency is still to be out there somewhere, either in the future or the past, rather than in the present moment. And honestly, the present moment is all that we really have. It's fine to plan for the future. It's fine to think about things you desire later on, set goals. And it's okay at times to think about the past if it's in a healthy way. But the present is all we really have. This is where we are right now. It's the only thing that's happening. And yet we often struggle to just live and stay in the moment. To be honest with you, children actually are much, much better at being and living in the present than adults. Adults spend most of their time in the past or in the future, and especially if you deal with chronic stress and anxiety. So mindfulness is a way to begin to train your brain, reshift your focus to the present. Okay. And this helps calm your stress response. So again, your stress response can often get activated at times when it doesn't need to be, and you sort of get stuck there, responding to things with anxiety that you don't need to. So mindfulness can help calm specifically the part of your brain we call one structure that's called the amygdala. You maybe heard of it. We won't get too into the amygdala. It's not super important that you understand it. If you want to know more about it, you can just Google it or go listen to somebody like Dr. Andrew Huberman, who could tell you all the ins and outs and the parts in detail. And anyways, but for here and our purposes, the amygdala, you simply just need to know that it's kind of like the fear response center for your brain. So it's responsible to help you with emotional regulation and processing. And this is especially related to fear and then anxiety also. Okay. So your amygdala is sort of on the lookout, right? For things that might be fearful, might need to get those defenses up about. And it can become overactive. So when you have chronic stress, anxiety, distress, you likely do have an overactive amygdala. When I was sort of at my lowest and dealing with panic attacks and severe OCD symptoms and anxiety, my amygdala was way overactive. I didn't know how to calm it. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't rest. It was miserable. Okay, so there is a book, and I'll try to put a link to this down in the description. I would recommend it if you deal with anxiety, chronic stress. It's called 50 Ways to Rewire Your Anxious Brain. Again, I'll put a link to that. Great book by those who are experts in the field, and I think it could be really helpful. So a quote from that book says, "The amygdala is designed to hijack our attention to focus on anything it considers to be a threat." That's what the amygdala does. And that can be a good thing, as I've talked about in a previous episode. If you see a bear in the woods, it's a good thing that your amygdala grabs your attention and focus and initiates the stress response. That's a good thing, right? But we don't want it to happen over things that don't really affect our well-being or not really actually dangerous or harmful. So it wants to hijack and be on the lookout, right? With good reason. But we get stuck there when we deal with anxiety disorders and severe stress. So how does mindfulness help? So there's various mindfulness techniques. So, and I'll talk about specifics, and I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration even of what some practices look like, but you could also just Google mindfulness techniques, and there'll be a lot of different practices you can do. You can even go to Google Scholar and look up mindfulness if you want to find out about various research on it. So these mindfulness techniques help you redirect to the present, and they are teaching your brain, and this is the important thing, that there's no threat, right? There's no danger. When we are stuck in that stress response, responding to all these different triggers, and our brain is feeling like there's a threat, right? And by focusing on those things and ruminating on those things, we're just reinforcing to our brain that, yes, those things we need to give our attention to, and we need to get the defenses up. We need to get ready to fight or to flight. Okay. So mindfulness is all about the refocusing in the here and now and just learning to develop that ability. And I promise you, it's a lot harder than you think. You got to start slow, but you can get there, and it will be super helpful. So doing these mindfulness techniques is calming. It keeps that amygdala from being overactive, and this is going to go a long way in your healing. So senses, as I mentioned, are a big part of mindfulness. Why is that? So when you are intentionally and actively noticing and being aware of what you are seeing, what you are hearing, what you are feeling, smelling, tasting, you are focusing your attention on the present moment, okay? Where you, again, most situations where you are safe and there's no actual danger, right? Because your brain can get stuck in this place of feeling like there's danger, there's threat. When you have anxiety disorder, you always feel like something's wrong, something's bad, something bad is about to happen. I get that. I truly do. So mindfulness, especially connecting with your senses, brings you to the present. We have our senses for a reason. God has given us these senses that are incredible. And when we notice them, when we focus on them, when we enjoy them, it allows us to be in the moment and to be less anxious, to begin to rewire our brains. When we do this over time, you're not going to do this one time and everything is better. In fact, you might do it the first few times and maybe you don't feel any different. Maybe you feel worse, but it takes consistency. The studies show that it takes consistency over time, and then real changes begin to happen. Your brain begins to physiologically change, be rewired. Okay. So let's see what else here I wanted to share about mindfulness techniques. Again, I said there's various practices. So there are breathing exercises you can do where you are slowing your breathing down. Okay. You're focusing on the feeling of your breath and you're slowing it down, and that helps to deactivate that amygdala, calm things down. Military people who are in these high stress situations have various breathing techniques that they use. In fact, I was watching a documentary. It was really good. It's that newer one on Netflix about, I don't know what it's called, Finding Obama or Osama. Sorry, did not mean anything political there. Finding Osama bin Laden or whatever. Anyways, and one of the guys that was a part of that SEAL team was sharing how in those moments when they're in the helicopter flying to this mission to get bin Laden, he was using mindfulness techniques. Now, he didn't use the word mindfulness, but he was sharing how he used breathing techniques to calm his nervous system, how he used some redirection methods to just focus on the present because his mind is wanting to just race ahead to everything that's about to happen, understandably. But it was getting him too hyped up. So he talks about how he engaged in some of these mindfulness techniques to just calm him, keep him in the moment, and teach these soldiers with these methods who are about to go into highly stressful situations to remain calm so that they can operate from a safer place, a clear space in their mind, think better, so on. Anyways, so these things really do help. There's guided imagery where you can Google that guided imagery and have people help you stay in the moment and think on things. They'll guide you through thinking about, okay, whatever, I'm at the beach and this is happening. Now imagine, and they'll help you. They're really good. And you can start small, work your way up. You will have to start small, most likely. Most people can't just do this for long periods of time at first, and you don't really need to. You don't have to spend tons of time on this. Even shorter durations are shown to be really helpful, and it's going to take practice. And so one of the things, I need to point this out as well, I know I'm saying a lot, but with mindfulness, you're going to find that you get distracted, especially at first. You're going to get distracted a whole lot. When you do it, and you're trying to do it, your mind wanders to that thing that you've been thinking about or some past situation. Your mind does that, and that's okay. Your brain is intended to be able to shift focus easily, right? If we're doing something and something happens over here, we need to be able to move our attention, but we also need to be able to bring it back. And that's important in mindfulness. You may, if you're doing a 5-minute mindfulness technique, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40, I don't know, however many times you may have to redirect back to the moment. And don't get frustrated about it. Don't be hard on yourself about it. That's normal. That's okay. But you are retraining your brain. It's like a muscle. It's got to be worked. To be able to stay in the moment is a practice. It's a skill, and it will make you happier and more peaceful and more content. But it's something that has to be developed and worked. So just keep bringing that attention back. There's all sorts of things: mindful walking, mindful eating. There's just like all these different mindful experiences that you can do, and they don't have to be weird or out there. Because I know, again, it can sound strange. And at one point I would have been like, I don't know, this is odd. But it doesn't need to be, okay? And I'm gonna go over one with you right now. This one is called, and I'll kind of demonstrate a little bit of it, but just to give you a better idea of what it might look like. This is one particular method or technique that can help you. It's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. So this is a pretty common method. You could Google it. It'll give you step-by-step instructions. It's very simple. Therapists often will use this, especially if they work with people who struggle with anxiety and distress. When I was in intensive treatment for my mental health issues, this particular method my therapist would use if I was in a really high distress place. So we had levels of distress, and we would have to tell our therapist throughout the day what level of distress we were at. And the higher we were at, like panic attack or having a panic attack or on the verge of it even, this was one of the go-to approaches that they would use. And it's to ground you in the moment. Now, you don't have to use it only if you're in like panic attack mode, but it is super helpful for those times of high distress. But even if you're just low distress and just, struggling a little bit, it can be really helpful. So it's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. Grounding referring to grounding you in the moment, in the only thing that's real. It's grounding you in the present, right? Future, past, grounding you in the moment. Okay. So what you're going to do, and I'll demonstrate a little bit, you are going to, the 5-4-3-2-1, you're going to engage each of your senses. So it starts with 5. And with the 5, you're going to name 5 things that you can see. It's forcing you to redirect to the things around you that are present. So I'll just do that. 5 things that I can see. Well, I can see myself on the screen that I've got a light blue shirt on, kind of a denim looking color. I can see I've got a black tumbler, I guess you call it, for my drink next to me. There is an orange cord right here that goes to my earbuds. I see my textbook next to me. It says cognitive psychology textbook. I can see the cover of it and the design. And I also see, this is kind of cool, there's a piece of paper under my textbook, and it looks like it's something that one of my kids, one of my little girls has drawn. There's a bunch of little flowers on it, and it's really, really sweet. And there's yellow flowers. It's good to name the colors that you see. Yellow flowers with green outline, and there's a pink one. Okay, you get it. So you name these 5 things that you can see, and you can go into to detail about them again, like the color, maybe what it looks like. And that's really anchoring your focus in the moment. It's helping you to stay present. Okay, and then you move to the next step, which would be the 4. So name 4 things that you can touch. What you're going to do here, same thing. Find 4 things around you. Again, I mentioned my tumbler here. I can feel this. I can touch it. It's here right now. It feels a little bit cool, smooth, kind of like the way it feels in my hand. So that's one thing. How about my head? Not much going on up there. Don't laugh. But I can feel the hair. It feels kind of good, like when you have real short hair and you kind of just rub it and it feels soft, and you go against the grain. I like the way that feels. So that's 2 things. And then I feel there's a table. I'm at a table, and it is really hard, and there's some grainy almost texture to it. Smooth, but there's a slight roughness in parts. So that's 3. And then you just do that for one more thing. I guess it was 4 things. So you would find something else and do that and say how it feels. You like the way it feels? Is it smooth, rough, hot, cold? Okay, so just give some detail to it. Okay, then you move to the next one. Now you name 3 things that you can hear. This one is always interesting to me because I'm always amazed at how many more sounds there are going on at one time than I usually realize. So as I just sit here and kind of get quiet, okay, I can hear my computer. It's kind of that fan on my computer is sort of going. Okay, I can hear it must be the air conditioning vent, when your air conditioning fan, I guess, is kind of going. I can hear that low hum. See if I can hear anything else. Well, I can hear my voice, obviously, as I'm speaking. So I hear that tone of my kind of low, deep voice. Okay, so you'll often hear, I'm amazed at how, when I'm sitting in my house doing this, how many times I'll hear birds. The birds are just constantly singing. And it's actually cool to notice them. Okay, so it's anchoring you in the present. And then you move on to one thing that you can taste. Maybe you've got something nearby that you can taste. Maybe you've been eating something and you can just taste that lingering taste in your mouth still. Maybe you grab something, a little snack. Here's my cup. It's got some tea in it. I just kind of let it linger there for a minute. It's a little bit cold. It's been sitting there for a while, so it's not warm as I would normally like it. But I like the taste. It's a very smooth taste. Got a little bit of almost bitterness though to it, but I like it. You just kind of feel how it is in your mouth and on your tongue and so on. Okay. Again, and that's it. That's simple. And what you've done and what I found is when I was in these high distress moments and panic attack, it redirected my focus and it showed my brain, okay, wait a minute. This thing that I am fixated on that's causing me fear and worry, wait a minute, I'm actually safe right now. By engaging your senses and doing this technique can really be helpful for you. Okay. And there's, again, Google, there's a bunch of different techniques. I'll go over more in the future. Um, I like to bring in research. So there was a study, Stanford put this out. So, that's a legit resource. And it showed that a 1 hour mindful walk in nature is extremely beneficial. So in other words, like a mindfulness walk, you're out in nature and you're hearing new things, you're smelling new things, you're seeing different things, you're acknowledging your senses and what's going on around you. And you're in nature, which is kind of a peaceful, hopefully, environment and setting. And they have shown that this is really helpful for stress and anxiety. And I'll just read this. So they took these participants, they were randomly assigned to go on a 60-minute walk in a natural environment. And they actually had people do it in urban environments too. And this is interesting. So they use these fMRI scans, which just measure brain activity when you're doing an activity. Okay. So they measured it before and after, and they found that those who went on this 1 hour walk in nature had decreased activity in the amygdala. And again, what did I say? The amygdala is about that fear response and activating your stress and looking for those things that it might need to respond to fearfully. However, the 1 hour walk in the urban environment did not see the same reduction. So this mindfulness walking in nature was shown to really be helpful. Okay, again, overactive amygdala is associated with anxiety. So walking in nature is a good way to help you manage stress, calm your amygdala. It's a great, if you can combine it with exercise, it says, it can be even more effective. And we'll talk about exercise in a later podcast and how that's helpful for your mental health and releasing chemicals like dopamine and those things that make you feel good. I always want to incorporate this into our faith because that's what this is all about. So mindfulness, how does that relate to really our faith? Well, I want to share a scripture. It comes from Philippians 4, verses 8 through 10. It says, "And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise." He says this next part, "Keep putting into practice what you have learned and received from me, everything you've heard, and the God of peace will be with you." So mindfulness is simply this fixing your eyes on those things that are good and noticing them, being aware of them in the present moment. And the God of peace will be with you to help you. And there's another scripture I like, Isaiah 26:3. It says, "Those of steadfast mind, you, God, keep in peace because they trust you." This is an act of trust. You might say, how? By choosing to shift your attention to the focus and focus to the now, to the present. You are letting go of those things that worry you, right? And God doesn't want us worrying on those things and stressing about these things in the future or things that happened in the past. So it's an act of trust to just continually, okay, I'm going to redirect and come back to the present moment in this steadfastness. It's not a perfection, but it's a consistency, a steadfastness. You're consistent. Okay. And it's a trust in God, and you're consistently trying to trust in God by living in the moment and in the present and enjoying the moment. It's a way of trusting that God has got the other stuff, and it's going to bring you peace. It says he will give you peace in that. Okay. So those are some verses related to faith on this that I really like. I got to wrap this up, but there's going to be a lot more to come. I just want to thank you for joining. Go to our site. We've got a lot coming, brainsetfree.com. There's a brain rewiring program that's more intensive where I can even coach you through some things. But just thanks for being here. Look forward to getting to know you and hearing your thoughts on all of this as well. So have a great day.